morning. So I was thinking about a couple things all wrapped into one. I guess acceptance and peer pressure and fear and all those things wrapped into a ball. And I think what it really comes down to is I was thinking about what we sometimes do when we are not completely honest with the people in our lives because we're afraid of disappointing them. And I think what we're often afraid of is what they might think of us. And I don't even think oftentimes we stop and realize how much tension that creates in ourselves. I mean, to back up a bit too, I think a lot of times we go on autopilot in our lives, and maybe we've spent most of our lives just reflexively doing the things that we think will make people happy without even thinking about what we actually want. And so we commit to things we don't really want to go to. And, if you're like me, that's what I used to do in the past, is I would, in the moment, be excited about something, or I wouldn't even think about whether or not I wanted to do something. And I'd just be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then the time would get closer and I'd start getting more anxious about it. And I'd sit there and think, like, why am I so anxious? Like, I like these people. And it was never about the people. It was just about, for whatever reason, I just didn't really want to do the thing. I didn't want to go. And my mind would make up a story about what they were going to think about me. Would they assume that I don't like them? Would they assume that I was this or I was that, or I was antisocial, or I was a jerk, or what? All these stories would start playing in my mind. And so I would typically push myself to do the thing. And to be perfectly honest, there were times where it worked out fine. It was fun and whatever. But there were a lot of times where it didn't. And I think more importantly than whether or not it worked out or it didn't work out is how did it feel inside of me, and what message was I giving to myself about honoring what I wanted? Why do we do that? Why do we put our actual needs and desires last and push that down inside and make that less important than our fears of what somebody may or may not think about us? And what I'm trying to do going forward is to be much more honest with people and realize that it's none of my business what they think. Just let that sink in. What other people think is none of my damn business. In relationship work, they often talk about codependency, and codependency can be subtle when you actually are like crossing over the line into somebody else's business so often that the lines get blurry and you don't even know what's your business and what's your partner's business. But I think in this case, it's the same thing. And even if it's with friends or it's coworkers or it's whoever it is, I think there's some codependency going on there if we think we know what they're thinking. We think we know how to make them feel better by acting differently, talking differently, making different decisions to supposedly take care of them. That's codependency. What we should do, I hate that word, but I think what we should do if we want to be balanced is we check in with ourselves. We see what's genuine, what we genuinely want, and we communicate that honestly and compassionately as much as we can. But sometimes it's just going to look like, hey, I just don't feel like doing that. I hope you guys have a great time. And whatever story people spin from that, and whatever, if their ego gets bruised, their feelings get hurt, like, that's not my business. And that's not your business. It's their own business. It's their own work they need to do. Or they can say to you, like, hey, when you said no to that, I felt this. And you can process that with them. Oh, I'm sorry that you ended up feeling that way. That wasn't my intention. I just didn't want to go. And it has nothing to do with how I feel about you. Just for whatever reason, I just didn't feel like going, and that's okay. And I think if we're just honest about these things, it'll go a lot smoother than we think. At least that's been my experience. When I have the courage to just tell people the truth, it almost always goes way better than I imagine. So that's going to be my goal today and going forward, is to be more honest and transparent about what I want to do and what I don't want to do, and let the chips fall where they may, stay in my own business and give people the opportunity to do the same thing. So anyway, I hope that's helpful.